I'm Ashley, and I've been alive for 29 years now. In our family, I've always been the person who handles everything on her own. You know what I mean? I'm the one who covers all my own expenses, the one everybody reaches out to when their world starts falling apart around them. But something inside me just broke that evening while we sat around the dinner table. Mom set her fork down carefully, dabbed at her lips with her napkin, and delivered the news in this totally flat voice like she was just commenting on the weather outside. She told me that Stephanie would be coming to live at my place starting next month. It wasn't even phrased as a question or a polite request. Just a done deal, already decided without me. I could feel my jaw getting tight and this pressure building in my chest like someone had their boot pressing right into my ribs. The word just came out before I could think about it. "No," I said clearly. "That's not happening." Everything went completely quiet. Stephanie's eyes went wide as she stared at me in total shock. Mom just blinked real slow, like maybe she hadn't heard what I actually said. "What did you just say to me?" she asked in this dangerous voice. I repeated myself, and my voice didn't shake this time.
No.
I'm not letting her move in with me. I'm done doing the same thing over and over again. Her chair made this loud scraping noise as she shoved it back from the table. She got to her feet so fast that her napkin just dropped right onto the floor next to her. "You ungrateful brat," she hissed at me, and then her hand came flying across my face hard. The sound of that slap seemed to echo in my ears, and my cheek burned with this hot, humiliating sting. You know that feeling when your entire childhood just hits you all at once in a single second? Every single time you kept your mouth shut, every moment you pushed down your anger, every occasion when you convinced yourself that putting family first was the right thing to do. I didn't let myself cry right then. I didn't get down on my knees and beg for forgiveness or anything like that. I just stood up, pushed my chair back from the table, grabbed my bag from where it hung, and headed straight for the door. Mom was screaming my name behind me, and I could hear her voice starting to crack and break. But I kept walking and didn't look back even once.
Tell me something.
If your own mother treated you like you were just some tool she could use instead of her actual daughter, what would you do? Would you keep sacrificing pieces of yourself for them, or would you finally turn around and walk away for good? That night when I left, I had no idea yet, but that slap was going to be the very last time she would ever hit me without facing real consequences. Before I get into how that single slap turned into revenge that my whole family is never going to forget, you need to stick around until the end. Because one choice I made after walking out of that dinner ended up changing absolutely everything for all of us. After I left that disaster of a dinner, I didn't head straight back to my apartment. Instead, I just walked around for a long time until my legs were aching and my cheeks finally stopped feeling like they were on fire. The metallic taste in my mouth gradually went away, but that anger burning inside me, that stayed put. Her words kept playing on repeat in my head like a broken record.
Ungrateful brat.
Like I hadn't worked at 2 different jobs all through my college years while Stephanie just stayed home figuring things out on Mom's couch. Like I hadn't handed them cash whenever they were about to get their electricity shut off. My phone started buzzing in my pocket. It was Andrea, my roommate and closest friend. She wanted to know where I was, said I should have been home over an hour ago. I just stared at her message on the screen for a minute before I typed back that I needed to talk and asked if she could come meet me at our usual cafe. A few minutes later, there I was sitting at the table we always pick. My hands were still shaking a little bit. Andrea came rushing in, tossed her bag down onto the chair, and dropped into the seat across from me. "Ashley, what in the world happened?" she asked, looking worried. I took this long, slow breath before I started explaining. Mom just announced tonight that Stephanie's moving in with me. No warning, didn't even ask me about it first. She just decided it for me.
So I said no.
And she slapped me right across the face. Andrea leaned way back in her chair, and her eyes got really wide. "She actually hit you again?" That word hung there in the air between us. Again. Maybe you're sitting there wondering the same exact thing I was. How many times are you supposed to forgive someone before you finally realize that all your forgiveness has actually just turned into permission for them to keep hurting you? How long do you let somebody keep crossing your boundaries before you have to admit to yourself that there aren't any boundaries left at all? My name is Ashley Brooks, I said quietly, like I was trying to remind myself that I was actually a real person with my own identity and not just some role they needed me to play. I'm 29 years old. I pay my own rent every month. I take care of all my own bills. I am not some child they can just order around anymore. Andrea let out this slow breath. Okay, start from the very beginning and tell me absolutely everything. So that's exactly what I did. I told her about all these years of being the responsible one in our family. How Dorothy, that's my mom's name, she was always saying things like Ashley can handle it whenever anything came up. How my older sister Stephanie just floated from one job to another, always ending up right back at our mother's house every single time things got difficult for her. I told Andrea about that time when my entire college savings account just disappeared into thin air because Stephanie needed a car so she could get to work. I told her about the time Mom made me feel so guilty that I ended up paying off my sister's debt because family doesn't let each other drown, according to her. And now, I finished up, feeling exhausted. Now they expect me to be her free live-in therapist and maid and babysitter all over again. I said no to that. Apparently, saying no makes me selfish. Andrea started tapping her fingers on the table while she thought about everything. You know what I think your real problem is? She finally said. I made this snorting sound. Just one. You never let yourself stay angry long enough, she explained. You always end up folding. You'll say no for like a second, but then the guilt just eats you alive, and you wind up saying yes anyway. How many times has this exact same pattern repeated itself? Too many times to count. Have you ever noticed something interesting? The people who are quickest to call you selfish are usually the exact same people who benefit the most from you being selfless. What if this time you actually don't fold? Andrea asked me. What if you don't just walk away from that dinner table, but you actually change the entire system and set new rules? What does that even mean? I asked her. They're my family, Andrea. Family or not, she said firmly. Nobody gets to hit you and then turn around and expect free housing from you. She leaned in closer across the table. Look, you don't need to declare war on them or anything like that. But you can protect yourself. You can gather up proof of everything, draw a clear line in the sand, and make it crystal clear that there will be consequences if they keep using you like this. You told me before about all those times Stephanie borrowed money and promised she'd pay you back, and then she just lied about it. Do you still have those text messages?
I blinkte her.
Yeah, I never delete anything from my phone. Good, Andrea said with this satisfied look. Keep all of it. Screenshots, bank transfer records, everything you've got. If they want to go around painting you as the villain in the story, you might need to remind everyone what the actual story really is. This cold, clear feeling slid over the top of my anger. My whole entire life, I'd been the good daughter. The one who kept the peace no matter what, the one who always kept her mouth shut and didn't make waves. What if, just for once in my life, I stopped protecting their image and reputation and started protecting myself instead? Are you telling me to get revenge on them? I asked. I'm telling you, Andrea replied carefully, to stop being their scapegoat. If that ends up looking like revenge to them, well, maybe that says a whole lot more about what they've actually done than it says about you. If you were sitting in my shoes right then, would you do it? Would you collect evidence against your own family members, knowing it might tear the whole thing apart, just so you could finally be free?
Sleep didn't come that night.
I just lay there in my bed staring up at the ceiling while my cheek throbbed where Mom's hand had connected with my face. My phone was glowing next to me on the nightstand, and it was full of years and years of messages I'd tried so hard to forget. Can you spot me $180 this month? I swear on everything I'll pay you back this time. Mom said you could help me with my rent just this once. You're the only person who really understands. The same exact pattern, over and over and over. I opened up my banking app and started scrolling through my transaction history. Money transferred to my mom, money transferred to my sister, rent payments I made for them, utilities I covered, emergencies that somehow managed to keep happening every single month. I started taking screenshots of everything. I made a folder on my laptop and labeled it for when they call me ungrateful. It felt wrong to be doing this, but it also felt absolutely right at the same time. Have you ever done something that scared you and liberated you at exactly the same moment? It's like stepping out of a house that's burning down while everyone else inside is still insisting that it's nice and warm and cozy in there. The next day rolled around and my mom sent me a text. "We need to talk. Meet me at the park at 4 o'clock. Don't be dramatic this time." I almost started laughing when I read that. At 4, I walked into the park where we'd met up so many times before over the years. But this time was different. I wasn't showing up as the daughter who came to fix everything and smooth things over. I was coming as the woman who had receipts for every single thing they'd done. Mom was already sitting there on a bench with her arms folded across her chest. Stephanie was standing nearby, pretending to scroll through something on her phone, but I could see her eyes flicking over toward me every few seconds. So, my mom started, "About what happened yesterday. You really overreacted to the whole situation." Overreacted? She had slapped me right in front of everyone at that table, and all I did was leave the room. "What exactly did I overreact to?" I asked, keeping my voice totally calm. "Your sister's going through a really hard time right now," my mom said. "And you just refused to help her." I was embarrassed, Ashley. What kind of daughter refuses to open up her home to family? The word daughter felt like a chain wrapped around my neck. What kind of mother hits her adult child just for saying no? I replied evenly. Stephanie made this scoffing sound. "Oh, come on. It was just a slap, not some crime or whatever." I pulled out my phone and opened up one of the screenshots I'd saved. "Do you remember this?" I asked, holding the screen up so they could both see it. "4 years ago, you asked me for $450 to cover your rent because you'd lost your job. You promised me you'd pay me back in 2 months. Stephanie frowned at the screen. "So what? Why are you bringing up ancient history?" "Because you never paid me back," I said clearly. "And then you did it again. And again. And again. Every single time, Mom told me I should help because I have my life together. She called it being a good sister." My mom shifted around on the bench uncomfortably. "That's what families do for each other." "Really?" I swiped to another screenshot on my phone. "Is it also what families do when they pressure one daughter into giving up her entire college fund so the other daughter can buy a car that she crashes 4 months later?" Mom's face went completely pale. "Where exactly are you going with this?" she asked in this quiet voice. I looked at both of them standing there. "You call me ungrateful," I said. "You call me selfish. But here's what I've actually given you over the last 11 years. I handed my mom a printed list that I'd prepared that morning before I left my apartment. It had dates, specific amounts, and reasons for each payment. The total was over $9,000. Have you ever wished you could just lay your entire pain out on the table just one time and say, "This is what you did to me. This is the reason why I'm not okay"? Stephanie grabbed the paper right out of Mom's hands and skimmed through it quickly. "Why are you doing this?" she snapped at me. "Are you trying to humiliate us in public or something?" "No," I said. "I'm done pretending that I'm the problem here. You want to move into my place and live there completely free while I'm working 42 hours a week?"
No.
"Not anymore. That's over." My mom swallowed hard, and I could see her throat working. "So, what exactly are you saying to us right now?" "I'm saying I won't be your safety net anymore," I answered. "If Stephanie can't pay her own rent, she can have a conversation with her landlord or she can get a second job. If you can't cover her expenses, that's something between you two. I'm completely removing myself from this pattern. And if we end up out on the street?" Stephanie challenged me. I held her gaze without looking away. "Then you'll finally learn what actual responsibility feels like. I learned it when I was 19 years old. You're 33 now." My mom's eyes filled up with tears, but they weren't the tears of someone who finally understood what they'd done. They were the tears of someone who was losing control. "You're going to regret this decision," she said in this threatening voice. "People are going to hear about what you did here. They'll know that you turned your back on your own family." I thought about all the times she'd gotten on the phone with friends and relatives, twisting the story around to make herself look like the victim in every situation. "Maybe they should hear the full story then," I replied quietly, complete with all the details. Would you let your own mother threaten to destroy your reputation just to keep you in line? Or would you finally make it absolutely clear that if she went public with her version, you'd go public with yours? The smear campaign kicked off the very next day. My aunt was the first one to call me. "Ashley, what in heaven's name is going on?" she asked. "Your mother says you screamed at her in the park and refused to help your poor sister, who's practically on the verge of being homeless." I closed my eyes when I heard it. There was just like clockwork. Same script she always used, just a different audience this time. Did she also happen to mention the $10,000 I've sent them over the years? I asked. The college fund I never saw again? The slap she gave me at dinner? Silence on the other end of the line. Then this long sigh. "Your mother is under a tremendous amount of stress," my aunt said in this weak voice. "Maybe you should try to be more understanding about her situation."
There was that word again.
Understanding. How many times had that particular word been used as a knife wrapped up in silk? Be more understanding. Be more patient. Be more forgiving. Why was I always the only person who had to be more of anything? That night, I sat down at my laptop and opened up the family group chat. Mom had written, "I don't know what I did to deserve such a cold daughter." Stephanie had added, "Imagine choosing your pride over your own family." I stared at the screen for a long moment, and then I looked over at the folder of screenshots sitting there on my desktop. "Andrea," I said, "if I drop all of this into the group chat right now, is that going too far?" She looked at me from her spot on the other side of the couch. "Do you want revenge, or do you want clarity?" "Both," I admitted honestly.
Then do it clean, she said.
"No insults, no name-calling. Just facts. Let everyone else decide who the real villain is." So I wrote out a message. "For everyone who has heard that I'm ungrateful and selfish, I want you to see what actually happened over the last 11 years. Then I attached the PDF file with a complete list of transfers, screenshots of all the promises they made, and one short sentence at the very end. "I'm not turning my back on my family. I'm turning my back on being used." I hit the send button. You know that feeling when you throw something off a cliff and you can't reach out and pull it back? That was my stomach dropping right through the floor. Would they hate me for this? Would they accuse me of airing dirty laundry in public? Would they finally see that I wasn't actually the problem here? Within just a few minutes, the chat absolutely exploded with messages. One of my cousins wrote, "I had no idea about any of this, Ashley." Another cousin added, "Wait, hold on. She never paid you back for any of this stuff?" My aunt chimed in with, "This is a lot to process." My mom wrote, "How dare you humiliate us like this in front of everyone?" Stephanie added, "You're sick. You're obsessed with money. Get over yourself already." I typed slowly and carefully. This isn't about money. This is about respect, boundaries, and consequences. I will not finance or provide housing for someone who refuses to stand on her own 2 feet. That same night, I got another message coming through. It wasn't from anyone in my family, though. It was from an unknown number. "Hi, this is Gregory, your sister's manager. I found your number through a mutual contact we have. I saw the screenshots circulating in your family chat, including the ones where Stephanie said she needed money because she was between jobs, while at the same time she was telling us she was caring for a sick parent. I think we need to talk about this." My heart just stopped. The screenshots were moving beyond just the family now. I hadn't sent them to this guy. Someone else in the chat must have forwarded them to him. Was this what I actually wanted? Was this revenge? Or was this a complete disaster spiraling totally out of control? Andrea was watching my face. "Who is that?" "Her manager," I whispered. "He thinks she lied about why she missed work." "Did she?" Andrea asked. I nodded slowly. "She told me she skipped her shifts because she was feeling depressed and needed rest. She told them she was taking our mom to medical appointments. She told my mom she lost her job because the company was cruel to her." Have you ever realized that you weren't just part of a toxic system, but you were actually the fuel that kept it running? That all the money, all the cover stories, all the quiet support you gave actually allowed someone else to lie without ever facing consequences? "Call him back," Andrea said firmly. I hesitated for a second. If I confirm anything he's asking about, she could lose her job. And if you lie for her again, Andrea replied gently, what changes? I made the call. Thank you for taking my call, Gregory said. His voice sounded steady and professional, but I could hear the fatigue underneath it. I just want to understand the situation. Stephanie told us she had to take time off to care for a sick parent. She sent us multiple messages about urgent medical appointments. But the screenshots her family is sharing around show her asking you for money because she spent her entire paycheck on online shopping and nights out at bars. I swallowed hard. I didn't send those screenshots to you, I said clearly. But yes, they're real. So she lied to us, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. She's lied to all of us for years. To me, to our mother, and apparently to you too. He exhaled into the phone. I'm sorry you're going through all of that. Unfortunately, I can't keep her on the team if she's lying about her absences. It's not just unprofessional behavior. It's actually dangerous when we're planning our shifts around false information. I closed my eyes tight. I could already hear my mother's voice screaming in my head. This is your fault. You ruined her life. Do what you have to do, I said. When I hung up the phone, my hands were shaking badly. Are you okay? Andrea asked. I think I just helped get my sister fired, I said, and my voice sounded totally numb. Does that make me a monster? Or does it just make me finally honest? If someone keeps burning every single bridge they cross, are you cruel for refusing to lay yourself down as the next bridge? The next day came around, and Stephanie showed up at my apartment door. She didn't knock politely. She pounded on it with her fist. I opened the door just a crack, with the chain still on. What do you want? I asked. Her eyes looked wild and red-rimmed from crying. You got me fired, she spat out. Gregory said he talked to you. You told him I lied about everything. I told him the truth. I corrected her. You did lie. You could have covered for me, she screamed. You always did before. What's wrong with you? Nothing, I said. That's the entire point. Nothing is wrong with me. I'm just done. She slammed her palm against the door hard. Do you understand what you've done? I have no job now, I have no savings, and my landlord wants the rent by Friday. Mom said you refused to help me. Are you actually trying to make me homeless? Her words were like hooks, each one designed to drag me right back into the old familiar pattern. You knew your rent was due, I said evenly. You knew that missing shifts would have consequences. You chose to lie about the reasons. This isn't happening to you. You created this situation yourself. She laughed, but it sounded bitter and harsh. You think you're so much better than us now just because you have some stupid savings account and a friend who drinks overpriced coffee with you? Yes, I said, and the word surprised even me as it came out. I am better than the version of myself who let you walk all over her for years. Her face twisted up. I hope you sleep well at night, knowing you destroyed your own family. Maybe for the first time, I replied. I actually will. She stormed off down the hallway, shouting into her phone, and I shut the door firmly. I leaned against it with my chest heaving up and down. Have you ever stood your ground so hard that you felt like you might just collapse afterward? Not from doubt about whether you did the right thing, but from the weight of years finally sliding off your shoulders. That evening, my mom called my phone. I let it go straight to voicemail. The next day, she came to my apartment herself. She didn't knock either. She banged on the door. Ashley, open this door right now, she shouted from the hallway. How dare you talk to her boss? How dare you send those messages around to everyone? I opened the door, and this time Andrea was standing right behind me where Mom could see her. I didn't send anything to her boss, I said. But I did tell him the truth when he called me directly. I won't lie for Stephanie anymore. My mom stepped closer, and her eyes were just blazing. I saw the exact same look she'd had at the dinner table right before she slapped me. You ruined her entire life, she hissed at me. What kind of daughter does something like that? What kind of sister? The kind who's tired of being hit and used, I replied. Hit me again, and I'm calling the police this time. Her hand twitched at her side. For just a second, I could see the impulse moving through her. Then she froze completely. Andrea stepped into full view. Mrs. Brooks, she said clearly, I'm a witness now. If you touch her, I will back her up completely. My mom's eyes darted back and forth between the two of us. You would actually call the police on your own mother? She asked in disbelief. If a complete stranger did what you've done to me, no one would even question it, I said. Why should the rules be different just because we happen to share DNA? What would you do if the person who raised you became the person you needed protection from? Would you keep covering for them and making excuses? Or would you finally choose yourself, even if the entire world called it betrayal? After that day at my door, something shifted in the air. My mom stopped screaming for a while. Instead, she started pleading through text after text. Stephanie is staying with me for now. But I can't afford this situation. If you would just let her move in with you, we could all breathe easier. Why are you punishing us like this? Punishing? That word made my skin absolutely crawl. I didn't reply to her messages. I just went to work every day, came home every evening, cooked simple meals for myself, and tried to build a life that wasn't centered around their chaos and drama. It felt strange, almost wrong somehow, to have quiet evenings at home. No emergency phone calls interrupting dinner, no sudden requests for money coming through at midnight. Then one evening, my phone buzzed with yet another unknown number. Hi, this is Dr. Martinez. Your mother and sister are here in my office right now. They say you're refusing to talk to them, and they're concerned about your mental health. Would you be willing to come in so we can all discuss this together as a family? I almost laughed out loud. They're worried about my mental health? I asked. That's what they told me, he said gently. They said you've become cold and vindictive toward them. Vindictive. There it was, the exact label they would use instead of admitting that I had finally grown a spine. With all due respect, I said, I'm not the one who lied, hit, and manipulated everyone around me. I'm not the one begging for money. I'm the one who said no. Silence on the line. Then he asked, would you be open to a separate session alone with me? You sound like you've carried a lot for a very long time. For a moment, I actually considered it. Had I gone too far with all of this? Was I actually punishing them, or was I simply refusing to be punished anymore? Where was the line between revenge and justice? Maybe, I said, but not today. After I hung up, Andrea looked over at me. They're trying to flip the script on you, she said. If you won't play caretaker anymore, they're going to try to make you the crazy one instead. Maybe I am crazy, I muttered. I helped get my own sister fired from her job. You told the truth, she replied firmly. If the truth destroys something, that thing was built on lies to begin with. Weeks passed by. Bills started piling up on their end. My mom sent me pictures of overdue notices like they were somehow my responsibility to handle. Do you want your family out on the street? She wrote. I wrote back one single sentence. I want my family to learn that I'm not their personal bank. Finally, one night they showed up again. But this time they didn't come to my apartment building. They waited outside my office building instead. When I walked out at the end of the day, there they were standing under the flickering street light. Ashley, my mom called out and her voice sounded different. Please, we need to talk. People were walking by all around us. Coworkers, complete strangers. I felt my stomach twist up. Here? I asked. You really want to do this here? Maybe then someone will see what you're doing to us, Stephanie said. Maybe then they'll see what kind of person you really are. Her hair looked unwashed, and there were dark circles sitting under her eyes. For the first time, I saw actual fear there instead of just entitlement.
Fine, I said.
Talk. My mom stepped forward.
We're sorry, she said.
The words sounded totally foreign coming out of her mouth. We shouldn't have hit you. We shouldn't have taken advantage of you the way we did.
I blinkte her.
Is this an actual apology? Or is this a setup? It's both, Stephanie said bluntly. We're sorry, but we also need help. I'm on a payment plan with my landlord, but if I miss one more rent payment, I'm out on the street. Mom is behind on utilities. You know we can't handle this alone. So there it was. The exact same pattern with just a new layer of pretty words painted on top. Let me ask you something, I said. If I give you money again, if I let you move in with me again, what actually changes? My mom opened her mouth, but no words came out at all. Are you going to therapy? I asked Stephanie directly. Real therapy? Not just using my name with some doctor to try to make me look unstable. She looked away from me. I can't afford therapy. You can afford cigarettes, I said quietly. You can afford takeout food. You can afford new shoes. You just can't afford responsibility.
She actually flinched when I said that.
Here's my offer, I continued. I will pay for 4 months of therapy for you. I'll send the money directly to the clinic, not to you. I will not house you in my apartment. I will not cover your rent payments. I will not be your emergency plan anymore. You do the work, or you face the consequences. My mom stared at me. That's cruel, she whispered. Is it? I asked. Or is it the first time anyone has given Stephanie a real chance to grow instead of just a cushion to fall on? What would you have done? Would you open your door again and lose yourself completely? Or would you give them one hard, narrow path and let them choose whether they'd actually walk it? For months later, the storm looked different. Not gone completely, just changed. Stephanie actually did take the therapy sessions I paid for. At first, I honestly thought she'd quit after 1 or maybe 2 sessions, but she kept going week after week. Sometimes late at night, I'd get a text from her. Today was rough. My therapist asked me why I always expect someone else to fix things for me. Or, I didn't realize how much I blamed you for my own bad decisions. I never wrote long replies back, just short ones. I'm glad you're talking about it. Keep going. My mom, on the other hand, went much quieter than before. There were fewer long guilt-ridden messages and more short, confused ones instead. I didn't know it was that bad for you, she wrote once. I thought you were strong enough to handle everything we put on you. Being strong isn't a compliment when it's just an excuse to hurt someone. One afternoon, Stephanie asked if we could meet up. Not at my apartment and not at my office either. At the park, she wrote. Where this whole thing started, I agreed to meet her. When I arrived, she was already there sitting on the bench. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically smaller, but in the way her shoulders were no longer thrown back in that lazy arrogance she used to carry. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied. We sat there in silence for a while. Kids were laughing somewhere in the distance. A dog barked. Just the normal sounds of other people's lives going on around us. I got a part-time job, she said finally. It's at a grocery store. It's not glamorous or anything, but it's mine. I nodded. That's good. I hate it, she admitted with this half laugh. But my therapist says that hating something doesn't mean you don't have to do it anyway. I smiled despite myself. Sounds like you have a good therapist. She took a deep breath. I was really angry at you, she said. I thought you had ruined my life on purpose. I kept thinking that if you had just lied for me one more time, I would have been fine. Were you fine? I asked. She shook her head. No. I was drowning. I just didn't want to admit it to anyone. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. You were my safety net, she continued. I never learned how to land on my own. When you cut me off, I felt like you pushed me off a cliff. But lately, I've been wondering if maybe you just stopped standing under me. Tears pricked at my eyes. Do you know what it felt like on my side? I asked. It felt like I was lying on the ground, and every time you fell, you landed right on top of me. Everyone told me I was strong, but strength still breaks eventually. Stephanie nodded slowly. Our therapist says our family is enmeshed, she said, stumbling over the word a little bit. Too tangled up. No one knows where they end, and the other person begins. You were the first one to cut a thread. We called it betrayal. Maybe it was actually surgery. How's Mom doing? I asked. She grimaced. Still dramatic about everything. Still telling everyone you ruined her favorite daughter. But she also started seeing Dr. Martinez herself. She's not ready to apologize the way you deserve yet. But she hasn't called you ungrateful in a while at least. Progress in my family looked like that. Messy, incomplete, but not completely static either. I'm not going to lie, Stephanie said. There are days I still think you were cruel to me. There are days I think you took revenge on us. Was I right? I asked quietly. She thought about it for a long moment. I think, she said slowly, you took revenge on the part of us that used you. The part that expected you to bleed for us forever. Maybe that part needed to die. The wind picked up around us. A leaf blew onto the bench between where we sat. I'm sorry, she added, and her voice was breaking. For taking your money. For letting mom hit you and pretending it was normal. For calling you selfish when you were the only one actually carrying anything at all. Tears slid down my cheek. I'm sorry too, I said. For lying for you, for cleaning up every mess you made. I thought I was helping you, but I was just helping you stay stuck in the same place. We sat there together, two grown women trying to untangle years and years of damage with a few fragile sentences. Do you think we can ever be normal sisters? She asked. What's normal? I replied. Sisters who never fight, or sisters who finally learn how to fight fair? She laughed softly. Fair would be a nice change, she said. As the sun began to set, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from my mom. If you're with your sister, tell her dinner is at 8 o'clock. If you want to come, there will be a plate for you too. No expectations, just dinner. No expectations. Was that even possible? Could we ever have a relationship that wasn't built on demands and guilt? Or was that just something people in healthier families got to experience? I showed Stephanie the message. So, she asked, are you going? I thought about the slap. The years of being used. The night I collected all those screenshots. The phone call with her boss. The way my mother had threatened, then begged, then fallen silent. Revenge hadn't looked like a movie scene with dramatic shouting and intense music playing. It had looked like saying no and actually meaning it. It had looked like letting the people who hurt me face their own consequences, even when doing so tore me apart inside. I might, I said. But this time if I go, it's because I choose to, not because they expect me to. Stephanie nodded. Can I ask you something? She said.
Sure.
Do you hate us? I thought about it for a long moment. No, I said finally. I hate who I had to be in this family. I hate the version of you and mom that treated me like a resource instead of a person. But I don't hate you. That's why I stopped playing along. It was the only way any of us had a chance to actually change. She wiped at her eyes. That sounds a lot like love, she whispered. Maybe it was. Maybe revenge and love weren't always opposites. Maybe sometimes the most brutal revenge you can take on a toxic pattern is to refuse to repeat it, no matter how much it costs you personally. As we stood up to leave the park, I felt lighter. Not because everything was magically fixed, but because the rules had finally changed. If you were me, would you have done the same thing? Would you have let your family fall so they could learn to stand on their own, even if they called it betrayal for the rest of your life? Or would you have gone back to that dinner table, swallowed that slap, and handed them your keys?